There's Saul in a puddle. So this is about perception. Okay, probably the most important part of communications and advertising that there is how people perceive. It's fascinating. It's a huge, huge topic. We're going to talk about it for like 20 minutes, but you could spend your life trying to understand this. I certainly have spent a lot of time in my career trying to figure out how people perceive things and why. It's neuroscience has made a lot of advances in the last maybe decade about understanding the brain and how it works. It's really kind of fun because every now and then I monitor a bunch of neuroscience type news, and every now and then there's this announcement. And neuroscientists have proved something that advertisers have known for a century, and magicians have known for maybe 2 centuries about perception. So this idea that perception creates reality is literally true. And there's an audio lecture I mentioned that I don't know if anybody listened to it, but it's worth listening to. So let's talk about perception. Who's this in the lower left-hand corner? Or in the middle? Charlie, Charlene, C, right? It's your target audience. It's your person of interest. It's who you want to speak to. You're here over in the right-hand corner, in the top right-hand corner. What are you doing? You are creating. This is the part where you're supposed to speak. You're not. Okay, fine. You're creating stimuli, right? The bell. Okay, click. Charlie, Charlene has circumstance. You know about that. There's a bunch of psychological stuff going on in their head as well. How they perceive, that's the piece we're talking about, but also how they learn and what they remember, their self-concept and their personality, which we'll touch on in this sector, attitudes and beliefs, motivations and emotions, all that stuff comes together to create their circumstance and their psychological space. In their world, in anybody's world, there is lots and lots of stimuli, right? Like if you think about your situation right now, wherever you are, you're sitting in your bedroom, your living room, your dining room, what? You've got a screen open, maybe 2, maybe 3. One of them has me talking at you and a picture, right? Maybe you've still got that mural thing happening and you're poking around in there seeing what's happening. Perhaps you got a Facebook going or an Instagram. Bad, bad, bad. You shouldn't do that. But anyway, the point is you've got lots of stimuli, and so does Charlie. Charlie really doesn't care about your advertisement for the most part. So there's lots of stimuli targeting Charlene or Charlie. Charlie, as we mentioned, I think I mentioned this last week, right, has a perceptual barrier, keeps a lot of that stuff out. There's exposure is just getting your stimuli in front of them. That doesn't mean they actually are aware of it. They become aware of it when you get through the perceptual barrier, and then they try and apply some meaning to it. And they do that. A lot of that meaning is applied using something called heuristics and biases, which are not inherently bad, by the way. Bias is frequently thought of as something that's bad, and sometimes it is. But both of those things are really our brain's attempts to create shortcuts to help us interpret the world. And they're sort of the things that are kind of mostly correct most of the time, but not always. And unconscious biases can really sidetrack us. Okay, so perception creates reality. There's Saul again. Look at that reflection. Which one's real? Anyway. So now we're going to talk about decision making. So we have a theory, a 5-step decision making process by somebody by the name of Kotler. And again, this is not the be all and end all. This is just a way to try and understand how people make purchase decisions all the way through. So it starts on the left with that need recognition thing. So at some point I go, I need to eat because I'm hungry. My stomach is growling, right? It's a physiological need. I'm hungry. I need to eat. Same would go for thirst or anything like that. Or it's raining. I'm getting wet. I need to get dry. I recognize a need. A lot of the needs that we appeal to, or the wants that we appeal to, are not sort of that physiological nature as advertisers, but they're more higher on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you will, and are more about social or esteem needs. And when you're thinking about your project and what you're asking people to do, if it's gender equality, for instance, what are you asking them to do? You're not asking them to buy something to make them happier or to spend money on a luxury that they'll feel good about. You're asking them to take some action. Maybe it's to donate money to your cause, or maybe it's to actually change their behavior in some way, shape, or form. Or maybe it's for them to sign a petition or write a letter to their MP. You're asking them to do something for almost what you might think of as an altruistic reason, right? Make the world a better place. Which is not a bad, it's a good thing. It's just not something that is always done from an advertising perspective. Anyway, so Charlene is over here. She recognizes a need or want, maybe consciously, maybe not even, maybe it's more subconscious, which leads to sort of motivation. I should do something about my wardrobe. I'm going to graduate soon. I'm going to be going on job interviews. I need to get some nice shirts. We're doing all this by Zoom, so all we need is nice shirts or nice tops. We don't need to worry about the bottom half. Or maybe we're post-COVID and we're out actually going to interviews, whatever. Now we're interested, we're motivated to open our perceptual barrier to basically anything that pertains to clothes in this instance, right, in this example. So we recognize a need, we become motivated. That in turn opens up the perceptual barrier a little bit, and we now start becoming aware of advertisements. We might even go actively search, which is kind of the next phase, right? So we move to information search. We go, oh, wardrobe, okay. So what am I going to do? Maybe, so these are some sources of information on the right-hand side there. If you think about your own purchase behavior, I mean, the obvious one is, we Google it, right? Running shoes, reviews, whatever. We may have come across something in our Instagram feed or on our Facebook that is advertising clothes. And at that point, we may become more aware of it again because of this motivation thing. It may be something that we ignore most of the time, but now we're actively looking for a new blazer. And so we actually start to see the ads that were always there pertaining to clothes, but that normally we've just sort of filtered out. We might think back to clothes that made us feel good. We might ask our friends and family. We might actually engage with advertising and salespeople. Anyway, a whole bunch of things, and obviously we might Google it, right? At that point, probably brand is coming in, whether the types of brands of stores that we like and we appreciate. If we have any learning, any memory associated with this, maybe you purchased a blouse from a particular company last year and it was just a piece of crap, or like it washed once and then it fell apart. So you're going to have some experiences, or maybe vice versa, or flip that, maybe there was something you purchased that was great, and so you go back to that brand. Moving on, that perceptual barrier again. So we've still got stimuli coming in. Some of them are getting through now because we're actively opened it up. It's happening in our brain. Our brain is processing stimuli that are relevant to our needs. This is key. Wants and needs, we'll say, right? This is super important because it's how you get through the perceptual barrier. If you're designing creative, your creative strategy needs to be designed to appeal to something that Charlene cares about at that moment. So that's how you get through the barrier. Otherwise, if she doesn't care about it at that moment, pretty good chance she's going to be oblivious to it. Unless you can kind of physically really get in her face, where she has no choice but to ignore it. But the vast majority of stuff we do and the mediums we use are easily ignored. So she'll also talk to other people, and she'll search. And then once she sort of has a bunch of alternatives, right, she's moving along, perceptual barrier is still up, but she's now got kind of a base of things that she might compare. Do I go to brand A or brand B? How much money do I have? Oh gosh, this one's too expensive, although I really, really like it. Can I get money anywhere? Or maybe just become a little bit more realistic and discount the super expensive options. You can see down here, there's this idea of, is it congruent with our self and our personality? Super important. Again, we tend to buy things that support our desired self-image. If you think about, for those of you that wear glasses, choosing a frame, right? That's an intensely sort of involved, or can be an intensely involved purchase decision, because it's your face we're talking about, right? And do these glasses make me look flaky? Do they make me look creative? Do they make me look smart? Whatever. So there's all that more thinking going on as Charlene in our example is comparing the alternatives available to her. And again, she might talk to other people, right? She might consider any one of those things, quality, price, features, all that stuff. What's most important to her is a key thing. Again, features versus benefits. Have you talked about that in other classes? Features versus benefits. Give me a thumbs up if you know what I'm talking about. Getting a thumbs up from Evan. Nobody else has a clue, Evan. Oh, Elizabeth, thumbs up. So features and benefits. The benefit is what Charlene cares about. The feature is the thing about the product that maybe delivers that benefit. So you don't sell the steak, you sell the sizzle. All right, moving on. What other people say can be a super important thing as well. We do a lot of stuff as humans. We are very social creatures, so we actually do a lot of our behavior is driven either mostly unconsciously by what we think other people think. So kind of moving on to the actual purchase decision. So we've come down to, I'm going to buy for me, I'm going to buy this paint from Home Hardware because Home Hardware is local and I like the people there or whatever. So there's an actual purchase. I've made the decision in my head. So now I got to go to Home Hardware. Oh my God, there's a huge lineup because it's a COVID thing. Oh, forget it. I'm going to go over here where there is no lineup or whatever, right? So there's an actual, the purchase experience of going to a store, or there's the purchase experience of just going to a website. You know, I want to buy this. Where do I go? Well, Amazon makes it easy, but maybe I hate Amazon because they whatever. So I don't want to use Amazon. So I go to a manufacturer's website and it's awkward or it doesn't work quite right. Or maybe it's an awesome experience, right? But the point is that there's that experience of actually sort of placing the order and purchasing the product, which is very important. It's usually beyond the scope of us as advertisers to control that, right? Because it's happening either at the retail level or at the website level. But for those of you that get involved in working on the client side, you may well delve into that space. So, and you might be thinking, you might have to learn about things like web conversion rates and all that stuff. So there's a path there for you, by the way, as a career path. I'm diverging a little bit. It's not just about the delivery and consumption experience, but it's about the internet, right? And using the internet as a way of doing all of this. So anyway, Charlene has her delivery and consumption experience. She's perceptual barriers still there, but she's very open in perceiving the things that go on within that experience, right? Because she wants her blouse. I want my paint. Okay, so here's I actually bought stain a couple of days ago at Home Hardware. So you go in, that's fine. There was no lineup. So you go in, I go to the paint department. I'm looking around. There's nobody in the paint department. So I don't really know. I want stain. I know that. I had a particular color. The guy's got to come and mix the color, right? So they have a button. I push the button, the doorbell rings. Another lady wanders in, and then the clerk shows up and runs into her first. They happen to know each other, so they're chatting away. She wants to buy some stupid little thing, and I'm standing there waiting, right? And she's chatting him up. Oh, how's so and so, and this, that, and the other thing. I don't know. What about this one? What about that one? Like she's buying filler for the wall or something. So I don't think I'll get that one today, but maybe I'll come back. Now, what about this one? And I'm standing there going kind of crazy, practicing my meditation, my mindfulness. And anyway, eventually the guy shows up and it's all good. But that is just part of the experience of making the purchase. And it impacts, that could very well impact my feeling about home hardware, for instance. They made me wait. God damn it, I was there first. Okay, so kind of moving on here. So there's this buy now. I've purchased. I've actually got my thing, right? So in my example, it was stain for a footstool I'm making. So the first thing I do, of course, is open up the can and paint some on a stick or a piece of scrap wood that I'm using, and show it to Vicky and say, "What do you think?" And there's a little bit of what's coming next, which is the post-purchase evaluation. Okay, so just spent 20 bucks on a can of stain. Oh, it doesn't look that good on the wood. Ew. Let's try a second coat in this case. And then after 2 coats, we like it. So we're good. But, that feeling of, did I buy the right thing, is what we call sort of the post-purchase dissonance or evaluation. Going on in your brain again. Also, other people impact it. And the question is, this idea of dissonance is really when you question yourself about the decision. So it's very common in big purchase decisions. It's very common where there are many sort of really different alternatives. It's not so common when you're buying something like gasoline, for your car. I bought it at Esso. Oh, no, you should have bought it at Petrocan. No, there isn't a big difference there. It's not like you made a huge mistake. Yeah. So that is what you might think of as a full high involvement purchase process. 5 steps from need recognition through information search, evaluation of alternatives, purchase decision, and post-purchase evaluation. Yay! If it's good, right? If it's a good experience, then next time when the need arises, information search might be limited to memory, right? No Googling required. I went here last time. I liked it. I don't have to do a whole lot of evaluation, which leads us to some of the sort of alternate routes. So not every purchase is going to go through all 5 steps, right? Did you guys study the elaboration likelihood model, right? Good. So that has a peripheral route, they call it, and a central route. So what we just looked at was kind of like the central route. This alternate route is a little bit like the peripheral route, okay? So it's when you sort of shorten things. You go, I don't need the information search because, it's in my brain. I don't really need any evaluation of alternatives either, right? I'll just zoom right to the purchase decision. So it's a much shorter process. And when you talk about establishing brand loyalty, that's what brand loyalty does. Okay, I go to the grocery store, I'm looking for dish soap. I don't have to do a whole lot of analysis. Which one's the most expensive? Which one's going to help my hands? Which one's going to clean my things the best? I'm going for that yellow bottle because that's what I always get. So brand preference is really, or brand loyalty is really about establishing this kind of purchase decision. And then there's another one they call the automatic response loop, which is sort of even shorter. You just go right to purchase, right? This is habitual. There's no thinking whatsoever. So this might be milk. It might be cigarettes. It might be your coffee in the morning, right? Starbucks is on my way to school. I pop in, I get my whatever it is, right? You've picked one. There's not even thinking about what it is you're going to get. It's just go for it. Okay. So that was kind of the decision-making process. Any questions? I should just pick somebody, right? And ask you a question. Let's do it. Mateo, you there?
Yes, sir, but I have no questions.
No, I'm not going to ask you a question.
Oh, for sure.
Tell me, so pick a recent purchase you made.
Shoes.
Okay. And what were the important criteria? So we're talking about the evaluation of alternatives here.
Um, Color and low cost.
So color and low cost. And what color did you end up buying?
Plain white.
Plain white. Groovy. It makes you feel special wearing white, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah. Of course, it's tough to keep them clean sometimes. I read a book once about a guy who what did he try and do? I forget what it was. He was trying to live according to the Bible or something. Like, it wasn't really a religious thing. It was just, he was trying to follow all the things. Anyway, he wore white, right? He wore white all the time. And he was talking about how it made him feel. Just this, you're always in white, you know, it's like you feel kind of bright and whatever. I guess it's just with the psychological impacts of what you wear. Personally, I think if I was wearing white, I'd be scared all the time. I'm going to get spaghetti sauce on it. Anyway, thank you, Mateo. So, okay, bang, 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 bang. We're kind of done that. Other slides in this presentation sort of take other views at it. There's this idea of fast processing versus slow, system 1, system 2. I'm not going to test you on that. There's high involvement versus low involvement purchases, which is worth remembering, right? You want to think about your situation. So in your particular project, for instance, what are you asking people to do? And is it a high involvement thing for them or a low involvement thing for them? And this really ugly table can give you a few clues. So if it's high involvement, then it's super important to Charlene. Okay, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You might think that all expensive purchases are high involvement purchases. Not necessarily, although frequently they are. If you're going to go out and purchase a condo, right, you want to make sure you're checking into a lot of different things. It's an expensive investment that you're going to keep for a long time. They tend to be high involvement products. Although, an example from my life is a few years ago I bought a new car, so that's a major investment. But it was very low involvement for me because I knew exactly what I wanted, right? I wanted the latest version of the brand I already have because I'm happy with it. So it really wasn't a very high involvement purchase. Versus buying a phone, a much smaller investment can be a high involvement project, a high involvement decision because it's something you have with you the whole time. I have post-purchase dissonance, by the way. I bought a Pixel, no problem, shifting from an Apple at the time. But I bought it online and I got the Pixel XL. More screen seemed to make sense. It arrived, of course, by courier or however it arrived, and it's this friggin' brick, you know. It's too big. But I'm sticking with it. I'm kind of used to it now. Anyway, high involvement purchases can include things like shampoo, right? What does it make anything that kind of is important to you as an individual?